So we'll hear from you for the conference, things later. But for those kind of a big week of conferences, we had visitors from outside the country, and then some of them belong to SFC actually, and so I invited two of them to this class in here, and asking them to remain in Japan and sharing their interests on the cybersecurity area with you. So let me introduce Jun Takei-san. He used to be working with me for the IT policy class at the SFC. He's now in Portland, Oregon, for the Intel research or Intel Corporation.
My group is responsible for policy, technology standard policy.
Intel technology policy is his work, but he's living in U.S. and very few opportunities he's coming to Japan, and therefore I decided to ask him to share his thing and titled 5G and the policy today. And also let me introduce another professor, Katarina Maruke. Probably you know her, right? And she's in charge of private policy, privacy policy, and also sharing our class with IT policy as well for a long time. And she's been serving as a professor at the SFC as well. She's living in Germany, Berlin, Germany. So, Katarina?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm mostly here to see Takei-san, because we met, right, through the IT policy class, maybe 10 years ago or something. Yeah. And then when you moved to the US, we took over, right? Yeah, but thank you for having me. I'm very interested in the discussion around 5G, because I think we can see like maybe different views, or maybe it's the same, but maybe different concerns in the different regions. So I hope we can discuss today like the US perspective, maybe European and Japanese. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Takei-san, so please start. We can always jump into the discussion. So.
Good morning. My name is Jun Takei. I'm working at Intel, but today's presentation I didn't put any Intel logo or Intel picture. So this is my personal presentation as a researcher in KOSFC. I still have the position in the researcher as a researcher in KOSFC. So as Murai-san introduced, I was in Japan until 2014, and until then, I think 7 years, I delivered a lecture with Murai-san about the technology and policy to the mainly GIGA students. So I don't know you taking that lecture, but we had a great time, and Katarina was at that time guest speaker. Then she kindly take over our lecture, and she Sakamoto-san, yes. So today, Murai-san, I met Murai-san in a security conference last week, and we had a lot of interesting topic. And I told him 5G is one of the very interesting technology policy area discussion happening around the world. So I think we can pick this topic as linking with the cybersecurity topic. But before getting into the cybersecurity topic, I'd like to share basics of the 5G. What is the 5G? And including the history of the mobile communication technology. So I didn't expect that we have Sakamoto-san here. Sakamoto-san is one of the professional, I should say, government official who manage the communication and the spectrum policy. So if my information is wrong, please let me know. So could you change the, So this is a very basic slide. I'm going to share. You don't have to understand the technical portion, but the 5G, G means generation. So mobile communication technology migrate from first generation to second generation. That is a big change, is technology change from analog technology to digital technology. And then second generation to third generation 3G, that is still alive. 3G technology, that is mainly big difference is CDMA, code division multiple access. That is a keyword of the 3G. And then many of you are using, if you're in Tokyo or in Kanagawa or in Japan, many of you are accessing LTE network. LTE is provided by OFDM technology. OFDM technology is another sophisticated wireless communication technology that developed by several researchers, and that gives a higher efficiency, spectrum efficiency. So that is a current technology, OFDM. And then 5G. What is 5G? As far as I know, 5G is combination of all the technology. So when 5G discussion started about 5, 6 years ago, many of the country says, oh, we do not need 5G. Every time they say, we do not 4G, we do not 3G, because current technology has not deployed around the nation. Many of the country people, they say same thing. And I said, same thing, 5G? Oh no, 3G is still deploying, and the 4G at the time, 4G is just started deploying in the city area. So 5G is too far away and too sophisticated and too much investment for many of the countries. So then the response from the industry was that, no, you don't have to care about that. If they want to stay in 2G, 5G network can provide 2G. If they want to stay 3G and 2G, or combination of 2 and 3G, they can provide, 5G can provide 2 and 3G, because 5G is combination of the old technology and adding something new. So the industry means the manufacturing company, they are offering the equipment, reducing the cost, adding the internet technology that is open system. So they're a very that is very competitive market, and all the company try to reduce the cost and make their product competitive in the market. So 5G, I think this is the first time in the telecommunication industry, especially for mobile telecommunication industry, to deploy and design their hardware and software utilizing the internet technology. So that is a big difference comparing with previous technology, 4G, 3G, and 2G. You used to 4G, 3G, and 4G, that is kind of the middle of the internet technology and the dedicated technology for the mobile communication. But still, there are special box, big box that provide, let's say, accounting or user accounting or traffic management or, let's say, wireless communication management. That box costs, let's say, $1 million. So it's very expensive. And it's very expensive to invest for the communication provider, service providers. But 5G, roughly that cost reduced, going down maybe tenths or 20%. A significant amount of the cost reduction, because they can use the common hardware utilizing the virtualization technology that is used in the internet service or cloud services. Let's move on to the next slide. So I'm sorry, this slide shows a little bit busy, but 5G is not the one technology. 5G is a kind of the group of the services. So this chart is published by ITU. ITU is global international organization attached to UN, United Nations. So ITU released this picture as a 5G vision. So 5G vision, this slide saying that this is the goal of the 5G. This is the service 5G can provide. This is the commitment 5G can do. So you don't have to read everything. I think I can give this slide to Murai-san, and you can check on the web later. But please remember, 3 different things are committed. So first thing, ultra high-speed communication. They are going to provide 10 gigabps level high-speed communication. So 10 gigabps, there is no 10 gigabps communication at this moment. Wi-Fi, they may using the 60 gigahertz band, but that is very new technology. And then next thing is ultra low latency, low delay, small delay, and the service can commit the continuous data, not the delay or disturbance of the arrival timing. So it can be used for the very synchronized system like the autonomous driving system or factory automation. And then last thing is a lot of massive number of the small devices. It's called M2M, machine-to-machine communication. So automobile and automobile, or sensor and sensor, or your small device and small devices, they are connected on the 5G network. So that's 3 different things. If you study technology, one technology cannot provide all 3 things. That's the reason why I'm saying that 5G is combination of the technology and the selection of the spectrum. Let's move on to the next slide. One more slide. Let's move to the next slide. Skip this one. Let's skip this one. So 5G network, as I mentioned, this is the first time to build all the system on top of, not on top of, utilizing the internet technology. So accounting or backend service that is done by cloud, based on cloud, and also they use the fiber network as they need fiber network as a backbone network, and then there is the high quality wireless communication network. So this left side, that is radio access network, and right side, that is core network. And core network is the important part of the network. That is not the usual telecommunication network. It is almost the internet. Let's move on to the next slide. So this is a little bit, this slide shows the spectrum. I think Murai-san is very much interested in this part. So now, many of us using the lower than 2.5 gigahertz for the wireless communication or mobile communication. So if you want to connect in the rural area, then the spectrum you're using will be 700 megahertz to 900 megahertz. If you go up to 1.2 gigahertz, then you need to have a lot of base station to be connected. So if you go up to the higher frequency, you may get the higher bandwidth, but you need a lot of base station. So for example, if we go up to 60 gigahertz, the radius of the service area, that might be few meters. So we may need the 2 or 4 access point to use the 60 gigahertz in this room. Are there any comments or correction from other professors?
Well, actually, the existing LTE is sometimes using the 5 gig as well. So the important term they should remember is a sub-6. So 6 gigahertz and down. So that's on the left-hand side. And they allocated 28, which is on the right middle side. So two different bands were allocated to the 4 companies. So that's 5G in this country's situation, so as any other part. So as Takei-san mentioned, then the nature of the radio wave on the leftmost side, which is a sub-6, and the 28, which is a rightmost side millimeter wave, are totally different. So he came from the study of satellite communication, therefore he's an expert on that part.
Yes, when I was in the satellite industry, 4 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz, that was used for satellite communication, or in some country like Japan, that band used to connect the telephone company's backhaul network using the radio communication. So prefecture and prefecture communication, long haul, long range, long distance backhaul network that was carried by it. This band is called C-band, 6 gigahertz and 4 gigahertz. And 28 gigahertz, that is called Ka band, that is usually used by satellite. So this is a physics. Physics means we cannot change the physical characteristics. So we need to understand if you really need to be connected 10 gigabps, let's say video downstream, you have to use the 60 gigahertz. I don't think it is, if you're connected, if you're using 700 megahertz or 900 megahertz, you may not get the gigahertz level of the speed. So for example, Murata has been involved in the Olympic game preparation. So some of the experimental tests in the Olympic, they may provide the real-time virtual reality 4K content distribution in the stadium. In the stadium, you can assume that a lot of devices are there, and how to deliver the contents. Only the possible technology is that minimize the cell of the coverage, and then you reuse that spectrum as much as possible. So those kind of technology are implemented in the 5G, and I think the Olympic game would be one of the good example to see what 5G network can be provided. But again, in the policy perspective, this is highly linked with the spectrum allocation. So that is the reason why Murata mentioned the several keyword, 6 gigahertz, 28, and 60 gigahertz. But this lecture is cybersecurity, so you don't have to remember the number. Let's move on to the next slide. So we can skip it. Murata, you want to talk about this? So who will provide a service? So as you mentioned, I think last bottom box, that is the dedicated service for the small organization or factory or campus. And I think top box, that is easy example, right? In Japan, KDDI or SoftBank, that is the top model. It's complicated, so we can skip it.
So far the important part about his talk is the 5G, you heard a lot about 5G, right? And then 5G is like sub-6 part is basically extension of the existing your mobile phone, right? Smartphone thing. I mean, it works like that. But the architecture, inside architecture, are totally different. Therefore, they are talking about the 5G, because it's, as he mentioned, it's all, we call it the all IP design. So it's a software design, architectural design inside the telephone company are totally different. So this is, built from scratch. So 2G to 4G, that's a telephone company's equipment. And now 5G should be, by theory, that's a different one. So that's one point. Because of that reason, then 5G mobile network has a potential ability to seamlessly collaborating with the other part of the internet in future. So the question is that going to be happening? So if that is happening, then for example, the university network and the carrier Docomo network, how the relationship between them, and then the new 5G allocation is going to be happening for the local entity, like a local 5G. What's the relationship between the Docomo 5G and the local 5G then? And what is the ISP, other internet data center, cloud service, and 5G network relationship? So what those relationship is not merely the existing mobile phone to the cloud service type of a relationship, but can be a more effective and a more attractive application with the internet as well. So that's basically this chart is talking about. It's a kind of a complicated mixture and a possible, architecture between the ISP, MVNO. MVNO is just kind of the service provider on top of the existing the mobile carrier, and then the ISP is the internet services, and the cloud data center on the right-hand side is a data center to put the services onto the internet. So that is onto the internet, and you have a mobile phone with a Docomo, and what the relationship is, the services from a data center and the cloud services and your service subscribed from the Docomo. Okay, existing relationship is just an internet relationship, but is that going to be a little bit different? Can be different on the new architecture because everything is a software. So that's a very interesting part, but it's very complicated and it's difficult to understand. But I want you to understand all of them. That this software architecture is going to be different with 5G. Therefore, there is a possibility of the new things happening. So that is a kind of expectation, and everybody is kind of expecting, maybe over-expected, maybe underestimated about the impact of the 5G.
So telecommunication infrastructure, that is the nation's very important infrastructure. And as you see, regulation make the business structure. So now, many of the countries around the world, regulator is still discussing what is the best way to let the industry to lead the nation to build the best and the effective network in the world, and that is important thing for all the nation to be how should I say, for the growth of the nation. So this is a very important topic for the policy perspective, but let's move on to the next slide. And if you're interested in, maybe you can ask Murai-san to discuss in the technology and policy lecture in the, I think, spring semester. So, you don't have to read this point, but as I mentioned, so 5G, they commit the very high-speed network. The point is, maybe they can build the very high-speed technology and allocate a spectrum to transmit the high bandwidth contents on the air, radio segment. But the challenge is, if you send the high-speed traffic through the radio network, how can you transmit that content at the end of the wireless network to the data center? Almost all the data is stored in the data center. Then that data center must be connected to the edge of the wireless communication segment. That means all the access point or the base station are connected fiber, optical fiber, that can transmit multiple gigabps speed. So 5G is not only the wireless communication infrastructure. It must be designed with the fiber network deployment. Very well designed fiber network. So actually, I made this slide about 3 years ago, and my key point to the government and the policy influencer is that we should not think about only the wireless communication segment, radio communication segment. You have to think of, you means the regulator or telecommunication company, you have to think about how to deploy fiber network. So in that sense, I told them that, I told many of the friends that we do not see 5G in the United States, nationwide. We may see some in the United States, but many of the house or building in the United States, they do not have fiber inside the building. But in Japan, we have a lot of fiber in the building, and fiber has already reached to the inside of the household. So that's the reason why I still believe Japan is one of the leading country we can show real 5G environment. So technology-wise, Japan is most possible country that can enjoy 5G network. But other country, they have not deployed fiber network. They have to deploy fiber network to enjoy the high-speed network. That is the big challenge for many countries. Let's move on to the next slide. Let's skip this one. So 5G spectrum allocation backhaul network. Oh, let's skip this one. Fiber network deployment, last one more. Yes, so some people may say, oh, we have already deployed the fiber network, like United States. We see some fiber network, but that fiber is not connected inside of the home. Usually last one mile, last one hop, that is still, they are using the coaxial cable. That is CATV, cable access TV, or other media. So bringing the fiber from the network to the household or building, that is another challenge thing, because it's cost a lot. So they have to do one by one. Let's move on to the next slide. So this is a summary of the difference between 2, 3, 4G, and 5G. From 2G, we could access to the internet. Maybe your GSM phone, when you're elementary school student, you can read email or you can access text website via text. But that is provided on top of the specific mobile communication network technology, and that carry the internet traffic. But now 5G architecture that is designed on top of the internet technology. So their architecture is assuming that they use the part of internet, and the internet traffic natively goes through the 5G network. That is a big difference. And then the last question is how to make 5G networks safer. One of the good example is in the 3G and 4G, internet is delivered best effort. Best effort means I will do my best to deliver your packet to your device, from the cloud to your device or your device to mail server. But 5G, as I showed the triangle picture, ITU vision saying that 5G commit the QoS, quality of service. Quality of service of the speed, quality of service in terms of the low latency, quality of service in terms of the massive number of devices. So in that infrastructure, how to make 5G networks safer, that is the interesting topic. Not only the cybersecurity on the internet, and one of the discussion you may hear is that many of the country governments saying that, oh, we cannot buy product from outside of the country because there is no way to trust the product built outside of the country. But from the industry point of view, your country, maybe the discussion with our politician, you may assume that all the product made in your country, but if you open up the box, then you will find a lot of product made in outside of your country. So how to make that assurance and how to build the trustworthiness in the environment, that is the big question we got from government, many of the governments as industry, and many of the global industry. Global industry means doing the business to multiple countries or around the world. They are trying to build the trustworthiness from the technical point of view. And I think you understand that regulating the origin of country, that doesn't say that product is safe. So I think this is the last slide I prepared, and we can start discussion. Any additional comment from Sakamoto-san?
Thank you. Yeah, that was very interesting and I think a very helpful introduction to the discussion. What you have just mentioned about the trust in the device, I think is one of the key discussions happening in Germany right now, because as we all know, the US government has asked the German government in particular to ban Huawei from the 5G discussion in general. But the German government has not, I mean, I don't think they have finally decided, but they have publicly announced that they will not follow that advice. So I think it's part of a bigger trade discussion is included, but I think the key message that people are hearing in Germany right now is basically don't trust the Chinese manufacturer when we talk about 5G. And I'm wondering if that discussion is moving into the right direction, because the public may not understand what we have just learned, right? So the public only knows, okay, I have a device, I want to access my services, And someone has to say that my data is safe. And because I live in Europe, I have the privacy regulation, so I feel safe. But they don't, I think the full picture is so complicated, and it's so important to, you know, break that down, the discussion, to see at what level can we actually regulate. Yeah, that's just my comment. Maybe questions from the class.
Any comment from your experience?
No. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with 5G technology, and now we have ensured the 5G cybersecurity, and we mainly focus on the you said in the software aspect and hardware aspect, and now and MIC and mainly focus on the hardware, and we promote and R&D regarding hardware technology, and this is one example also, and how to ensure the software security.
Thank you. Murata-san, you want to present?
Well, actually, what Katarina brought out is very much a complicated thing. And so, first of all, when we are saying 5G, that's like it's like a next generation of the internet type of a concept. And then the next generation of the internet, then then it has to be secure. Therefore, we shouldn't use Chinese equipment. That's basically the Donald Trump American discussion. So that's very much a political thing. And so what the Takei-san discussed today is very much of a technical thing, which is just kind of next generation of then big reconstruction of the telephone companies' mechanism based on the IP technology and the softwareized. That's a technical meaning of a 5G. All right, so we have to think about the kind of two different 5G, right? I mean, so 5G as a kind of very much comprehensive discussion about the next generation of the internet. And so the many politicians says 5G and the 6G, 7G, 8G, and so that's going to be changing our society. So that's a concept of new platform for the digital communication. And the 5G itself is a technology. Then we need to be kind of how those technologies and the combination of the existing technology is going to changing, of course, our life and the society, and what is the relationship with the privacy, security, and other things. So let me share my view on my work, interesting work. I'm doing for the relating to 5G. Okay, so the 5G discussion is very much the same. This slide is exactly the same as exactly those slides are the same. Probably took from the same places. So that's fine. And this is a wrong language for the class. I'm sorry about this. But this is a very important way that the title is network slicing. So this is basically the concept for the softwareizing of the network. And so when we are passing the video signal, I mean, Netflix 4K video. So this is like kind of 8-ton trucks on the highway type of a thing, right? And then in huge data and visiting to you so, and also some of the internet traffic like a Porsche. So it's a high speed and then very small number of data. And also like tiny cart type of a traffic, which is like IoT data, and a small number of data, but then it can be slow, but then it can, but they are all on the same street on the internet. Therefore, the idea is it's okay. They can ride on the same street, but virtually creating the different highway for each of the purposes. That's the network slicing. So the green part is for example, green part is for the TV signal, and the red part is for the IoT sensor data, and so that kind of things is logically defining by the software. If that is so that is basically for the management of the operation of the network. So operators understand that, okay, this data has to be arriving very fast. And this data can be slow, but it's a big data, large scale of data. And so we manage that way. So then, used to be on the internet, then, there are mixtures. So sometimes it's a conflict congestion, but then, they can cleverly optimizing the underlying hardware resources for the control of the complicated traffic of the future internet. That's the concept of the network slicing, okay? So the question is, this has been implemented, designed in a standard, but implemented within the company. Therefore, it's not the bridging among the companies yet. So I want to see that, because the theory is like expanding to everybody. All the ISPs. So for example, Keio University, NTT Docomo, and the IIJ's data center, and then the same slicing. That's an ideal operation. But we never see that kind of thing happening. So who can make these happening? And they're asking the company, and then they are competing each other, so they never make it. All right. So the idea is there any reason on this society to make this happening? Right. So that's a question. Okay. So look at this. This is one of the projects I'm working on. Probably you saw that on a newspaper, maybe not. Okay, this is a project that every single traffic signal, we do have 21,000, 210,000 of traffic signal around the nation. Okay, so giving that space and the facility to ISP, 4 different ISPs, because we allocate the 5G spectrum to the 4 companies. Like this. Okay, this is the allocation of the 5G. Maybe I saw you in the previous. So dotted line is a 6 gigahertz. So upper to the dotted line is called sub-6. So 2 channel, red goes to a Docomo. Yellow, two segment went to au. 1 for Rakuten, 1 for SoftBank, right? Okay, that's a sub-6. And then up to 28 is a 1 for each. So 4 companies existing, 4. All right, you understand? 4 companies in this country. 4. That's very important for when we are talking about the traffic signal. And then so they are using, each of them are utilizing the different technology, right? So it's very difficult. So look at the upper right. If traffic signal on the crossing, there is 4 signals, right? Okay, so allocating each of the signal pole to one of the company is going to have a kind of a very nice accommodation of the 4 companies, because it's 4. So we are very lucky that it was not 3, it was not 5, because it's 4. So So it's a nice sharing of the crossing. And then, of course, a traffic signal controlled by a police department of each of the prefecture. They can use this connection for controlling the real traffic of the automobile. So that's one way. But if you go to a countryside, there is such a street that the long street and just one signal and then away, right? That's a rural area part. So rural area part, then we push them to work for the sharing the physical signal ground station among those 4 companies' solution. Is that happening? It's possible because existing companies working on the 5G today, different technology. So can we make them work together to share the ground station? Yes, it's possible because when you are traveling with a subway and you notice that your phone is still connected or the metro subway and between the station, inside the tunnel, very limited space, and then you are still connected, right? Okay, that solution was forced for the other existing three carriers that time to work together to share the ground station and the special technology built for that purposes. So that's what we are forcing for this purpose to work. Okay, so then what is a traffic model? Look at the bottom left. The yellow, sorry about the language as well. So since the traffic signal has to be controlled by police department of each prefecture, so yellow part is a police network. Okay, police network is going to be connecting to each of the carriers for 5G, and then connecting to of course, the ground station, which is a signal pole this time. All right. Then in order to do that, then secure communication about the traffic, because it has to be attacked, right? If you attack the police signal, traffic signal controlling function, then you can crash all the traffic in the city, right? So it has to be protected very nicely. So the yellow part is has to be very secure under control. And then beyond the police network to the Docomo network, au network, SoftBank network, Rakuten network, then it has to be, of course, interconnected, but it has to be secure, right? And then, of course, a device on a signal, it has to be secure, because otherwise, bad guy can control the traffic, then it's going to be a mess, right? So so see all the plane has to be secure, especially for the traffic control purpose of the police, right? So is that possible by utilizing those new technology on a slicing of the software layer, specially designed for the traffic management inside the 5G network and the existing police network? Is that possible? Takei-san.
Technical-wise, I think it is possible.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, this kind of question, we see a lot of places. So, it all depends on regulation. So, if regulation mandate or force the carrier to accept this formation, they have to do it. But if they do not regulate, I think the solution can be picked different way. So I think all depends on what.
I don't understand how regulation works on this model though. Why we need a regulation? This is a very hot discussion I created this one 2 days ago.
I think this is very, very specific and very, how should I say?
Well, if we cannot solve this, then we don't
extreme
need
case.
5G.
I
network.
think this is very, very extreme case. But
But I still confused with what you are saying about the regulation because I know this is hard in terms of convincing Docomo to work with the KSAS, right? Police, and the engineer. KSAS network, right?
I think what regulation or what the service read the customer is that if the customer want to have the unified service platform that is not share the traffic with other customer, and I think the police they want to have the very synchronized network.
Yeah.
Not disturbed by outside
Right.
traffic.
Yeah, police used to have a dedicated
Yeah.
network, and now
And they
they're
have
gonna
dedicated
share with the
spectrum.
common infrastructure, which is good, right?
And the one regulation MIC can add is that if the customer want to build that virtual network, dedicated network with multiple vendor, and multiple vendor, if they asked by customer, they have to coordinate with the competitor. I think that is the
Yeah.
guideline. I don't say regulation, but if MIC submit the guideline, if you are requested by the customer, you have to, in Japanese, you have to consider it,
Yeah, that's a regulation to.
the carrier.
Yeah. Okay. So this picture, at the last moment, I was fighting with MIC about putting this line in between Docomo and AU, in between AU and the SoftBank.
So I
in
think
between.
that is
I mean,
one of the examples of MTM.
it took a long time to convince that you have to work with this one, right? And then they finally accepted. And then what about this one? So the competitors of the 5G carriers, are they willing to share their customer-based network plane together?
So
Yeah, they're doing that today, right? I'm a Docomo subscriber and you are SoftBank subscriber, and we can communicate, right?
yeah, that is through the internet.
Right. Well,
So
no,
all
no,
depend.
the telephone,
Oh, telephone, yeah, telephone gateway,
right?
carrier
So
gateway.
now this is based on IP, so this is a little bit different.
Should we get into the too? I think this is too much technical. I think we should get back to the little bit
Yeah.
security topic.
And also another one is the Tokyo City metropolitan area, and then the existing antenna on their Tokyo asset is just 40, and they decided to open now for the the 130. 12,000, 13,000 asset. Like a park, Hibiya Park is a Tokyo-owned thing. And now they are, open up for all the 4 carriers to install the 5G network. So today is 40, and now 13,000, and then offering. But the only control is that they have a one madoguchi, one registration, office, and so 4 carriers can come, and then they, if they want to do something on the park, it's free for them to use it, but they have to work together. So this is another one, another challenge that I want them to work together.
Let me ask one question to Murai-san. I think I bring back to the security topic. So the 5G, as I mentioned in the spectrum chart, 5G will use licensed band and unlicensed band. Licensed band, that is a spectrum to be given to the carrier. Carrier means the telecommunication company. And unlicensed band, that is, everybody can use that band. So one of the example is Wi-Fi is using unlicensed band. And also most likely 60 gigahertz, we may use the 60 gigahertz unlicensed band. Then the question is how to make the communication secure if the user uses the unlicensed band. That is another question. So if the band is not allocated to the telecommunication carrier may say, oh, I'm not responsible to protect that communication since customers are using unlicensed band. If you are using the licensed band communication, you can assume that your communication is protected by or managed by the telecommunication carrier. So that is big difference. But the 5G is very sophisticated technology, and if your device recognizes, oh, I can get the 60 gigahertz, and I found the 60 gigahertz access point, and I can get the 10 gigabps high-speed download from the data center, then this device may automatically switch from the licensed band to unlicensed band. How to build a secure and trusted system, and how to protect the privacy, that is a big, interesting topic to think about.
Well, to them, okay, so where is your PC is connecting to where? The campus network, right? All right. Your phone is connecting to where? Your phone. How your phone is communicating with the internet now? 今は Wi-Fi? 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 Wi-Fi or the carrier? Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi CNS. All right. So what about yours? Wi-Fi CNS. Wi-Fi CNS. Why Wi-Fi? You have a contract, right, with the Docomo or whatever. Why you use Wi-Fi here?
Because the data is limited. But with Wi-Fi, we can use as much as we want.
All right. Wi-Fi is unlimited, and then so if you use a carrier's data, then limited. So that's your contract, right?
Yeah.
So if you are rich, then you can buy whatever the bandwidth from your carrier. Where is your carrier? SoftBank. So are they providing you unlimited services?
No.
If you are rich?
Well, if you're rich, yeah, you can buy unlimited.
Okay. If you are rich and you are paying unlimited number of unlimited price,
Right.
then you can get any bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
Which do you prefer? I mean, SoftBank or CNS?
Probably SoftBank.
SoftBank.
Yeah.
SoftBank is better than CNS.
Just
Why?
because with Wi-Fi in the campus, there are some spots that you can't get Wi-Fi in the
Okay.
campus. And then especially if you go outside the campus, you can use CNS.
All right. So the coverage is bigger for the carriers. So, okay. So, yeah, that's basically the switch, right? So the Wi-Fi is basically free, right? And its spectrum is unlicensed, and then providing everywhere. What is the word? Is there any? I mean, many of you from outside the country, right? Okay. So you compare the Japanese Wi-Fi situation in a public Wi-Fi. Is there any opinion? I mean, is that better than your country or worse than your country? Or do you know the better place than Japan when you are visiting somewhere? I mean, Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi situation. You prefer to utilize Wi-Fi for save your money, right? Basically. All right. So you are doing that wherever you go. And Japan is enough in terms of public Wi-Fi situation. Do you know any place in the world better than the Japan situation? Yes, the microphone.
So I lived in Korea.
You live in?
I lived in Korea before I came
Okay.
to KO, and I find Korean internet to be better than Japan.
Okay.
Cause
Which internet? Wi-Fi or?
just in
the carrier?
general,
Huh?
just in general, like in my house, I use SoftBank Wi-Fi, but then I have to watch YouTube in 720 because it's really slow. And then even I use like when I turn on my data, sometimes it doesn't work at all. It goes to like 2G, even though I can use 4G. But in Korea, like it never happened like that. So, yeah,
In here?
yeah.
In SSC campus?
Oh no, like
Oh,
when
somewhere.
yeah, somewhere else.
Somewhere else. Yeah, right. The coverage is not enough then. Okay. Yeah, Korea, South Korea is a world #1 location in terms of whatever the infrastructure and the public Wi-Fi as well, I think. And well, so yeah, you were in the best place in the world, I believe. Any other experiences you can share? The Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, and the carriers data. In South Korea, carriers data, I mean, subscription fee, did you subscribe okay, which is more expensive than South Korea and Japan? Korea is cheaper, okay. So is that Japan is expensive, you said? Yes? All right, comparing with Hong Kong. Hong Kong is cheaper, I think so. All right.
I think in terms of cost, it's different because I think Japan has like better deals in terms of like what benefits you can get when you sign with a contract. But like when I lived in Singapore, I had like less gigabytes, but it was a lot more expensive. And it was like about like, if I were to convert it, I think it was like 2만 yen per month. But here it's like you can get like almost unlimited, for example, like 50 GB for like 7,000 yen. So I think in terms of that, like, and they have more benefits. Like for example, when I use YouTube or Line, it's not counted in the giga. It's like, I don't know, it's like out of the, bundle. So yeah,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Which carrier?
a SoftBank.
SoftBank,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. All right. Yeah, thank you very much. You see, we are now understand that it's a kind of complicated combination, and that their sales pitch and the price model is so complicated. So kind of excluding the YouTube and that kind of thing is YouTube is. So I was serving as I was involved as a kind of SoftBank business and also a Rakuten business. It's so complicated and competitive. Therefore, the price structure is going to be very much complicated. Finally, the government stepped in, and then so Japan's mobile phone is too expensive and too complicated. So do something. That's not a regulation, but the finally government would like to started to shout about that. So. Basically, that kind of a price range and other things, since we do have a multiple service provider, it should be the competition, right? And therefore, my opinion, the government shouldn't be stepping. And but then if they're working too closely and doing the similar services, and then they keep the price higher, high. That is, again, the citizens' benefit. Therefore, the government should step in.
Just want to talk about the pricing strategy in Japan. So from my own experience, I feel like compared to other countries, Japan is not as transparent when it comes to customer service. So I felt like when I went to Docomo, NTT, I asked if I can use a Chinese phone, but then the sales staffs were trained to say no. And then when I asked about a lot of questions, they couldn't really answer my questions because they weren't trained to do that. And there's a lot of elderly plans, so they put a lot of 안심 plan to go, 안심 hoken. So I feel like that's one way I think Japan is behind in terms of other countries.
Right. And talking about transparency, then if you read the tiny contracts things, then it might be there, but it's a very complicated, as I understand. And also you mentioned about the device. This is relating to the security as well. So when if you have a foreign passport, and do you have a difficulty to get the post-pay contract with a Japanese carrier? Is there anybody who's got that kind of experiences? No? All right. So, do you have such experiences?
So
I don't know. They would like to check with who you are because of kind of anti-crime operation, and then police is talking to carriers that make sure that identifying the individual for sure. So it's against the kind of crime situation. Therefore, sometimes it's overdone. Then it's a kind of pushing the kind of foreign visitors out of the subscription. So that's okay.
So I had a problem related to that, and as far as I know, that's only about a phone number. So I came to Japan when I was just 18, so I couldn't sign a contract myself because I needed to be 20. But it is still possible to have data plans without them checking anything. So they only check your passport and residence card if you want a phone number. So if you don't have a phone number, just like a data plan, they're not going to check.
Okay.
Interesting.
So sometimes this is a very big problem, and then so the younger, you mentioned about 18 years old. Then if younger than 18 years old, then they have to be signed by a parent.
Yep, I think so.
All right, then the parent has to have a hanko or sign, and then their parents living far away, and the regulation, rules of that particular company is sign the paper, and then the parents are living away. All right, so they can't do anything, and and also the bank account location, and it's so complicated, and same as everywhere. When I sometimes need a U.S. number in the U.S., and then it's very difficult, right? I mean, to get for the U.S. phone number because they need a social security number,
Yes.
the location and the bank account and everything. So they want to track me for the kind of and assure the payment. Therefore, I understand why, but then it's very difficult to get the number, right? But the Wi-Fi, you can be connected everywhere. So that's a very much a different policy, and therefore different privacy, different security for the Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, and then the phone. So if the government can regulate the phone companies, and then the phone company is going to be a single access to the internet, then that's going to be a disaster, right?
Oh.
Because the government will control our communication. That's the wrong thing. That's bad thing.
Right.
In most of the nations, I don't know in some countries, but I don't want to see that happening. Therefore, the Wi-Fi alternatives to access to the internet might be important. Don't you think?
That's a good question, but I think since we have Sakamoto-san, I'd like to touch about the offloading from the carrier perspective.
Yeah, offloading is
I think
offloading the
reason
technology.
why Wi-Fi deployed very quickly and public Wi-Fi quickly deployed in the society last 5 years or so. That I think that is a strong push or strong promotion from the carrier company. We can see a lot of carrier SSID in many places. That the reason why mobile carrier company promote the Wi-Fi offloading. Wi-Fi offloading is that move the traffic from the mobile network, like the 700 megahertz to 900, 1.5, 1.2, 1.5, 1.8, above 2 gigahertz. But the spectrum is limited. So if you watch the YouTube content using that spectrum can be filled by those traffic, not the voice communication. So they realized that mobile cell phone company move those internet traffic to the other spectrum or other medium. So that's the reason why they started to think about the offloading the traffic from the mobile communication licensed band to unlicensed band. That's the reason why that's the strong pressure or strong motivation for the telecommunication carrier installed a lot of Wi-Fi access point. Then the question from Murai-san is that do we need the alternative connectivity other than mobile communication, let's say 5G? But I asked all the students, they sometimes use the Wi-Fi, they sometimes use the carrier, so they are not by the carriers. I think it's up to you, and I don't have any recommendation, but from the security point of view, I hope you realize that if you use the Wi-Fi can be accessed by anybody, and it is difficult to identify who is operating that Wi-Fi access point. So that is almost same as you are sending the very personal message on the postcard and putting your postcard on the table and ask somebody to bring your postcard to your friends. So if you want to protect your message, you have to put that postcard in the envelope.
That communication is only secure if you trust the post company.
Yeah.
And in some countries that's private already. And I think we can have the same discussion in terms of the carriers. So how much do you trust the carriers?
Then the next, I use the analogy of the postcard envelope. So I highly recommend to use, if you use the Wi-Fi, I recommend you to use the VPN, virtual private network, that encrypt all the traffic, your traffic, through your trusted gateway. So I believe if you're using CNS is campus network, I believe there is a few or very few bad people inside of a campus network, but still I recommend you to protect. But if you catch the public Wi-Fi network in the city or station or convenience, coffee shop, then you should be careful to protect your privacy and your communication. And only the technology that you can that protect your communication, that is end-to-end encryption at this moment. You can rely on HTTPS or layer 4 encryption, but I recommend you to use the end-to-end encryption. Am I right?
Well, yeah, technically right, but then all the students are utilizing the the webmail through the browser. Then that is their end system encrypted already. So I don't know if they have there is a possibility that they can create up the fake SSID on a Wi-Fi network so that they can take traffic away. That's possible, but as you are right in terms of end system encryption can save you all the privacy, secure your data. So one is very much a policy discussion I wanted to share with the students that if 5G is going to be a next internet then that's going to be very dangerous. That 5G player is going to be a very few part of the society. I mean, it's basically the telephone company, and then the telephone company is going to be controlled by a government all over the world. So if our communication is going to be giving all the communication back to the government in the world, then that's going to be a little bit the concern. She's got the opinion.
I have a question related to the policy on 5G. So I just got back from a youth conference, a diplomatic conference, in conjunction with the Asia-Europe foreign minister meeting, where I had an individual focus on issues in cyberspace. Consequently, 5G and its future policy was discussed. So I would like to know, how does Japan and Europe's policy differ? And maybe like the second part of the question would be, how can Asia or specifically Japan and Europe collaborate to make 5G safer? If that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good point. Well, the Sakamoto-san can talk from the government relationship. Yeah.
I think, and the policy regarding the policy issue, 5G is the most important policy issue, and not we, and now Japanese government, European community discuss with 5G. And just as a starting point, and now is mainly focus on the technology. And you mentioned that the next is how to use 5G by solving social issues or etc. And each country has several ideas, and we exchange the ideas to improve the world. Also, not EU and Asia country and US.
So from a technical architecture point of view and the policy as a government, I think there's no the telephone companies, union, ITU, and then so in Europe there is a standards organization like those slicing architecture was defined by the standard organization called the ETSI, which is a European standard organization. So from a technical collaboration among those countries, I mean, even the world is pretty good, I believe. So they are always discussing. When we are talking about the communication technology, then we always think about the security and other things. So mechanically, technically, I think they are all collaborated and consistent in terms of what the kind of achievement. So what makes them different is basically the policy by the government to control the data contents running between them, though. If the basic thing different from Japan to the Europe and the other countries are, constitutional law 21st, which is secrecy of communication. So the government cannot step into the private communication, and the surveillance is not permitted in this country. But a different country can go to a telephone company and then I wanna check with this person. They can do that, but not in this country, right? Because of the basic law. I mean, very fundamental law, right? So those are different, and then because those are different, then some discussion of GDPR apply to those difference on the law. So this is basically the use of the 5G platform rather than the construction of the 5G platform. So, and one exception about the technology infrastructure is the use of the Huawei. This is very much a policy discussion, but some of the government is pushing to kick out that company to be a part of a 5G infrastructure. So that is almost only one thing. Politics jump in, and then try to impact the architecture, technology things. I think that's the only one, right?
Are you talking about the conference between EU and Japan last week on Tuesday?
No, I was thinking about the foreign minister meeting.
Okay.
Yes, so the
I,
ASEM. Yeah.
I was in the EU Japan on Monday. It was the conference
Madrid?
EU Japan and Korea, and on
Okay.
Tuesday EU and Japan. And both days we discussed about the 5G topic. And the 5G technical specification that has already been ratified about 2 years ago. So now we are in the phase of the procurement and the deployment. And in the procurement, some of the government expressed a strong concern for the specific company and specific origin of the country. But in the conference, both day, on Monday and Tuesday, I told everybody that this is a very slippery and steep slope we are facing. And once we get into the path, we cannot get back to the original point. Very difficult to get back to the original point. And also I told them that 5G is almost same as the internet. So many of the 5G technology, 5G infrastructure, they will use the internet-related hardware and software. That means if the government regulate the 5G network procurement and discriminate some country based on the origin of the product or the company, that maybe affect to the openness of the internet. So we have to be very careful, and the government should closely working together with the industry. And we share their concern, and their mission is to build the safe platform, safe infrastructure. We highly respect that goal, but just discriminating one company, that I don't think that can meet the goal or objective. So what I told as an industry representative, I told them that industry working very hard to build the trustworthiness and the secure procurement by the technology, not discriminating the country of the origin, and just discriminating the product from the country origin. 5 years later, they may discriminate your country's product. So we do not, as an industry player, we do not see that situation. That was the discussion I did on last week, Monday and Tuesday. Mainly, a lot of people from EU. And what I learned is EU, we say EU, that is not one country. There are a lot of countries, and there are a lot of different opinions.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think time is almost up, and therefore we have to think about our nice homework for the holiday seasons. So you should enjoy. Yeah. So I was gonna let you think very having a hard time thinking about what's the difference between the cyber war, cyber warfare, cyber crime, cyber security thing. But I changed my mind. So I want you to see the movies. Okay. So 3, 4, 5 movies during the holiday season. That's very hard. And then relating to cybersecurity, anything. And you're gonna, as a group, you're gonna create a group and pick one best movie to describe about all the issues of the cybersecurity. So sophisticated one, find out one, and then describe what is the issue, what is the solution, and what is your version of a solution to solve that? Yes. Huh? No, no. This is a kind of a pre-announcement. So we're gonna. Yeah, the question is when they are creating the group. Explain. Please decide your group before end of the
before
next.
the next
All right.
class.
Okay.
So you can be a group, anybody.
So this is not a mandatory, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
If you want to do that, then go ahead. But if you don't do this, then I'm not assured that you're gonna get the good mark.
So if you want the
That's up to you, right?
yeah.
So I decided to assign, to work on this. Sometimes the future science fiction and then talking about the cybersecurity and the cyberspace, cyber future is not a great movie always, but sometimes it's great in terms of imagination for the risk, dark side, bright side, positive side, negative side, and then so I respect kind of a producer, creator, designer of the good movies for the vision, and we sometimes learn from the games, movies, and other things for the to create the technology. So that's really happening, even to me. I want you to do the same experience and understand it. So I hope you can pick good movies, and then the sharing and the discussion among the group that what this means and what can be the solution, your version of a solution, movie version of a solution, discuss and explain to us later. So later in the next year. So that's basically the thing. I really respect your recommendation. And then finally, there is a list of good movies, and to understand to think about the cybersecurity. Then I'm going to see. I promise that I'm going to see all of them by your recommendation. So scan the movies, please. All right. So. Okay, if any questions, then that's going to be on the online. And then so finally, thank you I want you to join to thank you for Takei-san and Katarina for joining our class. Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.